Deep in the frozen wilderness of Siberia, in the far northeast of Russia, lies one of the most extreme places on Earth. Temperatures here regularly drop to -50 degrees Celsius, sometimes even lower, reaching a mind-blowing -71 degrees Celsius, the coldest temperature ever recorded outside Antarctica. Winter lasts 8 months. The air is so cold that your breath freezes mid-air. Step outside for a few minutes, and your eyelashes and facial hair will be covered in frost. Glasses, they'll stick to your face. A banana left outside turns rock solid and can be used as a hammer. It sounds like a place where no human should ever live. And yet, over 1 million people do. In fact, the region's largest city, Yakutsk, has a population of over 300,000, and it's actually growing. But why? Is it just the challenge, the isolation, a deep connection to the land? Or is there something much darker behind why people stay in the coldest city on Earth? The city built on ice. Yakutsk sits on top of a 300-meter thick layer of permafrost, a frozen earth foundation that never thaws, or at least it never used to. Because the ground is permanently frozen, buildings can't be built directly on it. If they were, the warmth from the structures would melt the ice, causing buildings to sink and collapse. That's why the entire city is built on stilts, and all pipelines, water lines, and infrastructure are above ground. If something breaks, it has to be fixed fast, or it will freeze solid. Daily life is a survival game. Cars run all winter. If you turn them off, the engine might freeze and never start again. At the local market, everything is frozen. Meat, fish, even dairy. Nature's own deep freezer. Schools only close if it drops below -45 degrees Celsius, and kids still walk to class in that temperature. But despite the extreme cold, this city thrives. Yakutsk isn't just a frozen wasteland, it's a major cultural and economic hub. But who actually lives here and why? The people who survive the cold. Half of the population belongs to the Sakha people, an indigenous Turkic ethnic group with deep roots in various parts of Asia. They have lived in this land for centuries, mastering self-sustaining survival in an environment that seems impossible to endure. Their traditional diet: high-calorie, high-fat, meat-heavy meals, a necessity to withstand the brutal cold. Some still herd reindeer and horses, continuing traditions that have existed for hundreds of years. But the other half of the population, they weren't always here. So why did Russians settle in such an extreme place? In the 16th century, the Russian Empire expanded into Siberia, setting up military fortresses and settlements, some for trade, others to protect themselves from attacks by native Siberians. And when Russia needed a place to send its political exiles, where better than a land where winter never ends? Even under the Soviet Union, this place was used to send prisoners into exile, forcing them to survive in inhuman conditions. Today, though, the people of Yakutsk aren't prisoners. They choose to live here. And there's one major reason why. The billion-dollar reason people stay Yakutia is one of the richest regions in Russia when it comes to natural resources. Diamonds, gold, coal, and oil are buried deep beneath the frozen ground. Alrosa, one of the world's largest diamond mining companies, operates primarily in Yakutia. And yet, despite the billions made from these resources, the people of Yakutia don't see much of that wealth. While corporations extract fortunes from the land, many locals struggle with poor roads, limited job opportunities, and low wages. Most of the wealth flows to Moscow, leaving the people of Yakutsk to endure one of the toughest climates on Earth for minimal reward. And now, things are getting worse. The melting city. A global disaster for thousands of years, Yakutsk sat on a frozen foundation of permafrost, ground that never thawed. But now, because of climate change, that permafrost is melting. The Arctic is warming 2.5 times faster than the rest of the planet. In summer, temperatures now reach over 40 degrees Celsius, creating massive instability. If the permafrost fully melts, the city could sink into the ground, with buildings collapsing and roads disintegrating. But here's the real danger. Permafrost is a time capsule. Frozen inside it, ancient plants, animals, and even bacteria from thousands of years ago. When it melts, these organic materials decompose, releasing huge amounts of CO2 and methane, a greenhouse gas 80 times more potent than CO2. Scientists estimate that permafrost holds twice as much carbon as our atmosphere, and if it fully melts, it could accelerate climate change at an uncontrollable rate. We've already seen small-scale disasters. In 2020, a massive diesel spill in Norilsk, Russia, happened because permafrost melted beneath an oil storage tank, causing it to collapse. Over 20,000 tons of fuel spilled into Arctic rivers, an environmental catastrophe visible from space. If permafrost melts completely, entire cities, railways, and oil pipelines could collapse, triggering massive global consequences. Yakutsk isn't just a frozen city, it's a warning sign for the rest of the world. So, why do people stay? For the Sakha people, Yakutsk is home. It's where their culture, language, and traditions have survived against all odds. For workers, it's a chance to earn money in the diamond and mining industries, even if most of the profits never return to them. And for scientists and adventurers, it's a fascinating glimpse into one of the most extreme places on Earth, but with the threat of climate, of